What's going on, guys? Tim back with another video. As you can see, today we are back in the house. We are going to talk about the Prodigy challenge today. So today I am going to talk to you guys about bagging Prodigy for 30 days, how it went, and what discs I am going to bag, what discs I might bag or might go into my alternate bag, and what discs I'm probably not going to bag out of the ones that I got. So, before we get too far into it, I do want to thank you guys. We have reached 300 subscribers, which is kind of a big deal to me. I'm pretty happy about that. Not only have we done that, but we've also been getting a lot of engagement on the videos, which I'm loving. So, I really appreciate you guys commenting and liking, and it's been really cool to interact with you guys. I've had a bunch of questions about the discs I'm throwing, the equipment I'm using, and I really appreciate it, and I'm happy to respond to all your comments. So thank you guys a lot for 300 subscribers, and here's to many more. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So starting off with discs that I am probably not gonna bag. There weren't very many, actually. I actually really enjoyed my time with Prodigy discs. I found out a few things. One, I do believe that they make some of the best feeling plastic in the game. 400 plastic, 500 plastic, 400G, 350G, all fantastic. Really enjoyed those. Their 300 putter plastic is also very, very great. So let's start off with some discs I'm probably not going to bag, and why. First and foremost is my 400 Air H3V2. Issues that I had with this, it just felt too light. It was a little bit too flippy. I just didn't enjoy throwing it. It just kept turning over on me. It was absolutely zero wind resistance whatsoever. The first video I filmed where I was talking about which discs I was throwing, this was the only one I couldn't get a good throw with in the field. Headwind, tailwind, whatever. I just couldn't make it happen. Took it out of the course once or twice. It just didn't work out for me. So the Air H3V2, probably not going in the bag. Up next, funny enough, my 500 H3V2. Something about the way this disc feels and sits in my hand just doesn't work. I love the plastic. I love the idea of this disc. A nice neutral kind of 10-11 speed. It's kind of weird because it says 11, 5 minus 1, 2. Online it says 10, 5 minus 1, 1. So who the heck knows what it actually is, but just didn't mesh with it. I had one or two good throws throughout my month with this disc, so wasn't super impressed with it. I know Broderick enjoyed it, but not me. I don't know if it was just the way that it fit in my hand or the way that it was working, but it just wasn't for me. Up next is my 500 FX2. I was really excited about the FX2. I thought it was going to be kind of that like Raptor slot, where it's pretty stable, really good for forehanding, things like that, but it just didn't work out that way. I mean, this thing is insanely stable, and that just doesn't really fit super well in my game right now, so didn't fully enjoy the 500 FX2. Up next, this 400 D3. I think if I got a different D3, I would have enjoyed it. This one, I don't think it was even super heavy, but I think it was 174. Yeah, pretty normal weight for a disc. For whatever reason, this is a pop top, but for whatever reason, this thing was just so freaking beefy. I could put it on all the flex I wanted into a headwind, and it just would fight out every time. And I'm not going to ever claim to be a big, giant bomber, but I can throw kind of hard. For whatever reason, this D3 was just super, super stable. And funny enough, the last one is the 400 PA3. The 300 PA3s that I have, best putter I've ever putted with in my entire life. For throwing, I'm going to say it's just mediocre. I think there's better options out there, for me at least. It's a good disc. I wouldn't say that I wouldn't bag this in 100 years, but I think that there's some better options out there. So up next, we're going to talk about discs that are either going to make it into my alternate bag or that I may bag in the future, depending on what my needs are. So first and foremost, actually a disc you guys never saw, but I got to throw a couple of times, but just for now, there's actually a pretty good chance that this is going to make the bag in the future, but for right now, it is not, and it is this 400 PA1. I actually got a mystery box recently of the Chalky discs from Prodigy. They have a Chalky mystery box. I got a 3-disc mystery box from them, and this was in it. Feels pretty good in the hand. Flies a little bit confusing. Being the PA1, it should be pretty stable. It's kind of a weird one. If I throw it flat, it kind of just goes and then fades a little bit. If I throw it on hyzer, it kind of just bricks. And then if I throw it on Annie, it kind of just holds the anhyzer. It doesn't really know what it wants to be. But it might make the bag because I don't hate the hand feel. But for now, it will be probably on the shelf in the maybe category. Up next is one that I probably will bag in the future, but I don't really have a slot for it right now. And that's going to be my 350G M2. I really enjoyed this disc. It was very fun to throw. I just find that, at least this one specifically, flies basically exactly like my M4. And I just like the M4 a little bit better. I feel like this didn't go very far. It had a more flip up than I wanted and not enough fade. So, you know, it's a pretty cool disc. I really like how it feels in the hand. I like the 350G plastic. I just don't really have a slot for this right now. So for the time being, this is not going to make the bag, but it is definitely going in the maybe category. Up next is a disc that might surprise you guys, but it's currently not going to be in the bag because I just don't really have a slot for it. It's my 400 F3. Fun disc, more stable than I was expecting. Basically, this has a little bit of flip up and a lot of fade. So there's another disc in my bag that you guys may or may not have heard of that I am definitely bagging in its place for the most part. You know, it's a fine disc. It will probably make the bag. I kind of prefer the Mantis from Discraft over this a little bit. They feel pretty similar. I just think the Mantis has a little bit more flip to it, and I think it's a little bit more reliable in its flight. So for the time being, this doesn't make the bag, but this one is definitely in the maybe category. Up next is one that also might surprise you guys, but it is the Reblend FX4. I actually had a rocky start with this one because I was expecting it to fly like the numbers, and it didn't. It recently got replaced by another mystery box disc that you'll see in a little bit, but it's pretty good. It feels pretty good in the hand. I do like the reblend plastic. I did find out that reblend plastic tends to be more stable for whatever reason. You know, Broderick's M4s were more stable in the reblend plastic. I know Luke Humphreys was talking about on his coverage of the Tour Down Under. He was talking about how his reblend, I think D2s were like super stable and he was really enjoying them in the wind. So I think the reblend plastic's just really stable. This disc is pretty fun. I actually did enjoy forehand flip-ups with it. I just found it to be a little bit more stable than I wanted in this slot, and there were some discs that I liked a little bit better for that slot. So for the time being, FX4, not quite in the bag. Up next, another interesting one, 400G X4. This one was a tough one for me. I love the way 400G feels. It's such a comfy plastic. It's so grippy. It's got a little bit of flex to it, but not as much as regular 400. This was a fun disc. Once again, more stable than I was expecting. I don't think this flies like the numbers at all. I found that if I was going to try and throw a distance line with it, it would have to be on a big flex, where what I was really looking for out of this was just a hyzer flip machine that would just go out, flip up, little bit of turn, and then a gentle fade, and it just wasn't that. So this one didn't quite fit the bill for what I was looking for in that slightly understable distance driver slot. Up next is it's the 400 PX3. I like this actually a little bit better than the PA3. For me, stability-wise, they were about the same. I don't know if I got like a pretty stable PA3 or maybe an understable PX3, but I just found the PX3 had a little bit more glide to it, and I enjoyed it a little bit more. So PX3 for the time being, not going to be in the bag, but this one I really did enjoy, actually. I threw some very good shots with this. So without further ado, we are going to get into the discs that are in the bag permanently, at least for now, because I'm super crazy and I like to switch my bag around a lot. But first and foremost, we'll go from fast to slow, or at least thereabouts. First one that's definitely making the bag, H1 V2. This thing is such a machine. I really enjoyed this disc. It is super comfortable in the hand. It's pretty shallow, pretty flat, flies really nice. It flies somewhere in between a PD and a Raptor, I think. So, you know, it's got that really good stability. Feels super good on the forehand. 99% of the time, this disc is coming out when I need a stable forehand. So it's just a blast to throw. I really enjoy it. I've gotten to a point now where I'm getting a little more confident in my forehand, throwing it a little bit harder. This thing will do a little flip up for me. It won't really turn, but it will flip up and ride. And in a headwind, pretty fantastic. So H1 V2, definitely in the bag. Up next is a mystery box special. a disc you guys haven't seen before, but in my time throwing it, I have enjoyed quite a bit. It's what I wish my FX4 was, and that is a 400 Shadowfax. Numbers 9.5 minus 2.1, I think it's more like a 9.5 minus 1.2, or maybe a 9.5 minus 2.2. It's got a little bit of flip, it's got a gentle fade, and it just flies super nice. I think it feels slightly better in the hand. It's a little bit shallow, it's got a really nice flat top to it. That 400 fairly gummy plastic feels amazing, so Shadowfax definitely in the bag. Up next, and this will come as absolutely no surprise to anybody, maybe my favorite disc that I've ever owned, this 500 F2. This thing is magical. It does not fly like I would ever expect an M2 to fly. Numbers on it are 7.5 minus 3.1. I think they changed that to an 8 speed, maybe like 8.5 minus 1.2 or something like that. It doesn't fly anything like that. It actually flies more like what I thought the F3 would fly like at 8.5 minus 2.2. It has a really, really nice flip up. If I throw it flat, it gets some turn, but it always pretty much comes back. It's very reliable. So, you know, thrown out, flips up, a little bit of turn, reliable fade. This thing is fantastic. Not to mention, it is one of the best hand feels I've ever had on a disc. Board flat, shallow. I can backhand or forehand this. I was always really hesitant to forehand understable discs, but this thing has given me the confidence to throw hyzer flip forehands with it, and it is such a good disc. I don't know, if you go out and buy a 500 F2, I don't know if you'll get one like this or not. I don't know if this is how all F2s are, but this one is my favorite disc, maybe ever. I'm not sure, but it's up there for sure in the top 5. Up next, briefly talked about it earlier, it is going to be my 500 Ultra Soft Gavin Rathbun M4. I just really like soft discs. I think they're really comfy. 500 Ultra Soft is actually insane. It feels so good in the hand, really grippy in all conditions, pretty gummy, but when you throw it, it doesn't really feel like you're throwing a super soft disc. It's got enough rigidity where it doesn't feel like you're throwing something that's gonna flop over in your hand. Once again, that classic M4 flight, just slight flip up, super straight, gentle fade. It is a very, very good disc. For sure in the bag. Plus, big fan of Gavin Rathbun, great dude. Up next is a disc you guys haven't seen before. Came with my mystery box, but was not in it. I pre-ordered this disc. Didn't even know what to expect for the most part, but once I threw it, it immediately earned a spot in the bag. And that is gonna be 400G A4 Broderick edition. What up, Brod? Wow, what can I say about this disc? It is one of the weirdest feeling approach discs I've ever felt. You can see the rim is definitely more elongated than you would get out of a normal 4-speed. It is also, I hope I didn't just show my phone number. I don't think I did. Good. It's got like this weird elongated rim with a bead, and it is a disc where if I throw it forehand and put some torque on it, it whistles out of the hand. Just a so that's a super weird thing, but I don't even know how to explain how it flies. I mean, it flips up, it turns a little bit, but it always comes back. I can really crank this thing forehand. It comes out smooth, flip up, turn, reliable fade. I was not expecting this to fly the way that it does. I wasn't even sure I was gonna throw it when I bought it, but this thing is immediately in the bag, and I don't think it's ever coming out. I'm actually scared to lose it because I don't think these are in production anymore. But holy crap, the A4 is such a sick disc. Up next, no surprises here. For whatever reason, the distance drivers from this group did not really mesh with me too well, but like, you know, a couple of fairway drivers, and then like everything 5-speed and below was just perfection. So up next, 750 A5. This thing is so good. I would say it's kind of not quite as stable as a Zone, but about the stability of a Harp. But weirdly with more torque resistance, like I can really kind of ramp up on this thing with a forehand, and it ain't gonna flop or flip over or anything. It goes pretty far. Numbers 4302, pretty accurate, I think. I really enjoyed this disc. I use it mostly for backhand approaches, where I use the next disc for more forehand approaches. But yeah, the A5, I love how shallow it is, and it is just a board. The 750 plastic kind of feels like a mix between 400 and 500 and a little bit stiffer than both. It's pretty sweet. I really like it. Love the color, love the look. 750 A5, definitely in the bag. Up next, a disc I just alluded to, my big time forehand approach disc. It's my A2. I love this thing. I can throw this thing pretty much as hard as I want forehand, and it ain't going anywhere. It's gonna go straight. It might even flip up slightly, but it's always going right. On a backhand, it's an absolute meat hook. I really like this disc, especially in the wind. It is untouchable. So A2, fantastic disc. I put this somewhere in between like a Zone and a Zone OS. So slightly more stable than a Zone, not as stable as a Zone OS. It is just the perfect, super usable utility approach disc. Up next is another fairly new addition to the bag, but one that you guys have seen quite a bit because of my Sand Hill video. It's basically the only disc I threw. It's my super straight putter. It's the PA4. This is a 500 PA4, and I love it. It's nice and shallow, nice and flat. It flips up and just goes straight forever. It doesn't really fade. I can get a little bit of turn out of it if I really crank up on it. If I throw it flat with medium power, it will turn a bit, and then it will generally have a little bit of a fade to it. PA4, pretty sick, actually. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, sweet disc. Great for the woods. And the last two discs that are for sure making the bag, this will also come as no surprise because, I mean, they kind of changed the way my game looks. And that's the PA3 in 300 plastic. Soft over here, firm over here. I don't know what it is about these things, but like, they just go in the basket. They come out of my hand smooth, and they go in the basket. I have had less misreleases with this putter than I've had any putter in my life. Essentially, I mean, aside from like long jump putts with this thing, I basically never airball this disc. I'm hitting some sort of chains from basically all over the map. 45 feet and in, I'm hitting metal of some kind. It's insane how good these things are. You know, you might not like them because they have a bead, and that's fine. I don't care. You guys like whatever you want. This is just my opinion. The PA3 is my favorite putter that I've ever tried in my life, which is funny because I didn't enjoy the throwing PA3, but yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I'd like to thank you all for watching. Make sure you stay tuned for my next video where I'm going to take out my new bag, so you'll see a bunch of discs that I am bagging that are not Prodigy, but also some of your old favorites. You're going to get to see me throw that A4, and that thing is freaking sick. So I'd like to thank all you guys for watching, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace. Oh, hey, don't forget to like and subscribe.